Oh, snap.
That will shovel as much smoke as I could.
Yeah. Cram it in there real good. Mm.
Deep black. Oh, man.
Right?
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 It's starting to get real.
Yeah.
It's getting real fast. That's what I'd like to say.
My team may be doing terrible, but at least I can take solace that I'm actually off to my best fantasy start ever.
Yeah, that's something.
Yep.
Like, I got a couple teams that are 0-2, a couple that are 0-1, because literally my week 1 was just all losses.
I mean, I gotta take it because literally both my pro and college teams are both 1-2 and 0-2 respectively. So,
I mean, that's kind of an advantage when it comes to fantasy, is if your team's not doing well, you're like, well, I am a fan of my fantasy teams.
Yep. I will say though, I didn't think I was going to win last night because like go into the night, Jeremy was like 140 something, I was at 112. But Aaron Jones, man.
Oh, yeah. He turned it on.
Yep. He was real close to topping Derrick Henry.
Yeah. I noticed that, I think, last year with the Packers. If Aaron Jones is hitting, like, they'll probably win.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Detroit didn't show... I mean, they didn't have a pass rush against the Niners. They showed that again against Rodgers. And...
a telling stat of the Lions was so in the last 2 games, in the first half they've outscored their opponents like 40 something to 20, but in the second half they've been outscored like 52 to 10. And that is why they've lost both games somehow. Yeah. Or like first 3 quarters versus last quarter, something like that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember that statistic, but yeah, no.
But hey, at least the Niners are doing okay, right?
Yeah, they're holding on. Like, so I feel like the Eagles are going to be like very surprising this season, and I'm pretty disappointed that Kima didn't make it this time because the Cowboys should be scared,
especially after their last 2 performances. They've had some rough games.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers beat themselves, and the Cowboys took advantage this week. But, like, yeah, the Eagles were tough. Like, just watching, of course. But
yeah,
the defense played pretty well. And, like, if it wasn't for them being able to just interrupt Hurts and to really lock down the receivers, like, it would have been real dangerous.
They're one of those teams that I had a suspicion that they would just be... They could be dangerous. A lot of people are like, oh, it's the Eagles. I'm like, guys, there's things are starting to turn around maybe for them.
In the same boat as Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, that's probably still too early to tell. Like, did they dominate just because they're actually a lot better, or just because that week 1 was a fluke and Jameis Winston is actually still hasn't improved? We don't know yet.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I watched their highlights because I don't have access to all the games I played, but I watched the highlights, and it showed that their defense was getting to Jameis, so they have a pass rush, or maybe the Saints don't have an O-line. But yeah, they played really well, so I don't think you can really take that away when the Saints were able to blow out Green Bay, which suffers from a similar fate of not really having a pass rush with Smith out.
Yeah, but it's still Green Bay. It's, again, they're one of those teams where it's like Green Bay's like the Steelers. Until you prove otherwise, you gotta just say, okay, yeah, they're probably gonna win the division until you show that they're not. I mean, okay, make the playoffs. I'll phrase it that way instead. Just one of those, until they don't, you just can't really count them out.
That's true. You expect Green Bay to either make it to the playoffs or at least win the division.
Mm-hmm.
When you got the Bears are a hot mess. I mean, you guys beat yourselves.
The Vikings. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like them and the Chargers this week definitely fall on the like we played ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, that Chargers game was like, I don't know how either team, both teams in that game looked like. Okay, what do you guys need to just get your act together? Because you both just don't seem to want to win this.
Yeah, I mean that's similar to the Ravens Raiders game where they just kind of
yeah.
in this game.
Yeah, man, that was a bad one. I will say though, I think the thing that hurt the most is like all the pundits, all the fans are talking about how, oh, the Vikings lost because their defense is terrible, and the offense is their part. But here's the thing: in the first half, yeah, the defense wasn't great. The offense did some well. The second half, the defense outscored the offense by 4 points.
Yeah.
When your defense outscores you on 5 drives, you can't say the defense are the ones who lost.
No, I watched those highlights too, and I'm like, okay, the defense played pretty well.
Yeah, second half they did great. Like, it was on 7 drives they held the Cardinals to 10 points. I think it was, including 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick 6. Those are respectable stats for a second half, especially for a second half.
Yeah.
The offense on 5 drives, 3 points. Field goal, missed field goal, 3 punts.
And I don't know, something I feel is a little pressing too is like I have a feeling the Cardinals have been very susceptible to the tight end. Oddly enough, the Seahawks have too. Like the tight end is more or less always open. Just lacks coverage, or the linebackers just aren't great at covering. But I mean, who you guys going to throw it to right now in the out of the tight end position?
Yep. I mean, we'd letting Rudolph walk and then losing Smith. It's like I can't remember. We still had a good tight end on the team, but it's still just we lost easily the top 2 tight ends we had. So, and then also doesn't help that Cook got hurt. But that's why I always pick up Madison.
Yeah, I mean Madison is serviceable, so there's no reason that offense should have been able to keep it up, keep on the pressure, push the ball. You have like great threats in Thielen and Jefferson, and then that new guy who, what was his name,
Osborne.
Yeah. Osborne.
I mean, granted, half his yards came on that one touchdown play, but still, like, he's. It's the first time we've had like a strong wide receiver 3 candidate. But the O-line's still the O-line. It's a hot mess, and Kirk Cousins is still, as soon as you get in his face, he collapses like, flying in the cupboard. Just So yeah, honestly, I hope that if they don't make the playoffs, they're finally going to realize that this team's not going anywhere and start the rebuild, because I just don't see them going anywhere else.
I see them having a similar issue to the Packers a little bit. Like I'll address it separately, but it's like if Zimmer could reel in Cousins, because Cousins over there, honestly, big dick swinging, like I guaranteed money, you're not going to do shit. You rein in his ego, be like, look, we need you to play better as far as like game plan, and then he needs to change his game plan, because they're just watching. It feels like he doesn't really adjust his game plan based on the teams he's playing. It's run the ball, as opposed to like, okay, they're fast defense, we need to just run some screens, hopefully spread them out. Maybe we throw that deep ball because we have Cousins with the arm, we have Jefferson with speed. Like, yeah, I think like if you guys had a very good or a serviceable coach,
it's Zimmer. I think would make a great defensive coordinator. He just shouldn't be a head coach. I really don't. He's like, I mean, right. We were watching. Was it last night's game? Might have been.
Yeah.
Either the last night's game or the Sunday night game. And I realized, no, maybe it was the Ravens game, because they had like Rex Ryan is their defensive coordinator, and
Rob Ryan.
Rob Ryan, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, for the Ravens, it's Rob Ryan and Spagnuolo is the chief.
But then also they have can't remember his name, but he used to be the head coach for the Lions. Like they had all these former head coaches as coordinators at various levels.
Anthony Lions.
But it's like, again, it's one of those, I think he could make a decent defense coordinator, but the dude should not be anywhere near an offense.
And I mean, that might be part of the problem too. It's like some of these head coaches want to put their hand in everything. They want full control of the team because they're the head coach, which fair. If you have a scheme in mind, sure, put that pitch in. But at this point, like maybe you need to be like, I need to hire an offensive coordinator that could be completely hands off with.
Well, there's another problem to that is, and I've been harping on this. It's Rick Spielman and the Vikings can't scout the O-line for shit. They can't. Like a good example of that is like, so Pat Elflein, he was our high first round draft pick or whatever a few years ago, 2017. He's now playing for the Panthers because he didn't pan out. Our big first round Dakota Dozier guy or whatever, he's now hurt, hasn't played a single snap. They just cannot pick O linemen. And part of the problem is also for the longest time they're like, oh, we have the run blocking scheme, so they're going for the smaller, faster, more athletic linemen. But the problem is when you get into obvious passing downs or you need a power run, those guys were getting blown up.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like Cousins, if you can give him time, he isn't horrible. Like he can make some plays, but the problem is if you can't give him time, like Cousins is a pocket passer. That's where he really gets his stats. Is like give him time, scan the field, wait for someone to get open. But and that's why I also don't think even a new offensive coordinator fixes it because it's the entire scheme. It's the personnel. Because Zimmer wants to run the ball, so he gets the run blocking. And guys like, great, do well run, passing, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. You, at least as a team, you have more pieces in place than some other teams that would need a rebuild. It'd be similar to I think the Philadelphia situation.
Yeah. Well, really, the biggest holes are the O-line and the secondary. The front seven, they have a decent front seven. I mean, they got Hunter back, and even Griffin, I think, is going to be good. I don't remember who our D tackles are because we've been changing our D tackles every year, it seems. But they've still been good, especially when you have some good ends. Our linebackers, Bard's great when he's healthy, but if we overpay for him, he's never healthy. But the other guys we've been getting, their front seven is almost always solid when they're all there. But it's the back end where they're really those are the two places. If you fix those two spots and get a better offensive scheme, you got a team.
Yeah. You need a better offensive scheme to fit the players. And especially make up for the holes in the offensive line.
Yeah.
But yeah. Quick passes. That's the only thing I think of.
Yeah. Not everyone have 1.9 second Tom Brady or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Which he killed it for me in fantasy this week.
He did. Although I am curious because I noticed something, and it's just thought occurred to me because everyone's talking Tom Brady's best start, most touchdown passes, but notice who most of those touchdowns have gone to. So and this also made me think about something okay, let's go back. Historically, what have been his worst seasons with the Patriots when Gronk was hurt? So maybe, I'd be curious to see what happens if Gronk gets hurt. Does that whole offense collapse? Because it really just seems like Gronk has been if he lives and dies by Gronk, it seems.
I would say a little bit, but he has so many weapons that someone could pick it up. Now, I say could because they don't have the rapport that he already has with Gronk, and I think that's what makes him so dangerous. Is that he can throw up the ball, and Gronk already knows he's going to throw it, on my back shoulder, and he's ready for it.
I mean, but it's the other thing I thought was like, okay, so right now you have the whole thing of if they're in like especially their passing set, you can't really double cover anyone because it's like, okay, do you double team Evans, Godwin, Brown, Gronk? Who do you double cover? But okay, if you take away Gronk, you could probably get away with double teaming one of those guys and single covering the other one, or do like a zone. Yeah. And then like the running backs, like the running backs are good or okay, but yeah, like it's one of those like really it's they're not the ones you're as worried about.
Yeah, they have a hot and cold backfield. That's what it is.
Yeah. So again, like that's where I was like, if you also really think about it, it's like when all the other guys are covered, he goes to Gronk because he knows he's going to catch it. The dude's going to open. Because unless you literally tackle him, it's really hard to cover Gronk. He's like a Kelsey or Kittle. So, yeah, I'd be really curious to see how that changes things for him. I mean, you're right though. He still might just go like, okay, well, next man up, just throw to the other three guys. Who knows?
Yeah. So I mean, Mike Evans is a big target, and they still have a really good tight end sitting behind Gronk.
I don't even remember who their other tight end is.
I know, right? I was just thinking to myself, like, I can't remember his name, but I know he was at one point a big name.
Let's see. Cameron Brate, OJ Howard, Cody McElroy.
I was thinking of Howard.
Yeah. That name sounds familiar. Oh, it's
You muted yourself.
Yeah. Whoops.
Yep.
But yeah. No, there was interesting games. I still don't think we have much clarity as to who are like the real big teams.
I don't either, and I have a feeling it's going to be this way up until people get eliminated for the playoffs.
I think we'll have at least like some idea by week 5 or 6. At least like, okay, there'll be enough body of evidence, enough teams will play each other. You'll start seeing like, okay, you'll see roughly these are the better teams, the worst teams. So it doesn't mean it's going to hold, but because that's like, again, it's so like it was something. This is the first time in history where 15 teams had a new quarterback to start the season. So you're talking almost half the league had a brand new quarterback. And I think that's part of the reason why there's so much like just uncertainty. I'm like, okay, who are the teams? Because that's the thing. Like, okay, the Bucks beat up the Falcons and the Cowboys. Well, how good are the Cowboys? Do we know how good the Cowboys are? We assume we know, but do we really? And then you go to like, okay, Saints Panthers. We talked about that. We go, you can go to Chiefs Ravens. The Chiefs just haven't with themselves. Like,
yeah, but it's like the Ravens played a hard game, but then they lost to the Raiders. But the Raiders beat the Steelers, and you really can't count out the Steelers.
Yep. Well, and then even the Bills, it's like, okay, yeah, they just dominated the Dolphins, but then they lost to the Steelers. It's right now every single team looks beatable. I mean, you really look at the big contenders. Like, I mean, the Rams, yeah, they beat the Bears, but they barely hung on against the Colts without freaking Wentz. So it's so far no team really looks unstoppable to me.
Yeah, and I mean, the Rams even had a fight against the Bears.
Yeah.
So, I look at the top 10 teams, the NFL ranks, and I can't clearly say yeah, they deserve to be here.
Yep.
Outside of
it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, like some of them, of course, I'm like, okay, the Bucks, the Chiefs, they have higher odds of winning. If we want to play that way, sure. But I don't know, the Cardinals being in top 10, even like the Niners being in top 10, it's hard to say until they have that dominating game and then can repeat that. If I had to put money on a team right now, who would it be and why?
So I'm assuming they mean like to win the Super Bowl. I'm assuming that's what they mean by put money on a team.
That's what I'm assuming too.
I gotta be honest, like I know everyone would most people probably say the Bucks because they basically brought back the same roster, but throughout like we've seen how hard it is to repeat.
Yep.
Like we just
statistically it's not in their favor.
Yeah. Well, and especially like just like for it to come together the way it did, like it did take quite a bit for them to pull it off last year.
Yeah, they didn't look good for a while last year.
I mean, considered they almost lost they won 2 road playoff games, but they almost lost both those. And one of them was against to Washington without Alex Smith. So it's a question of are they really good, or in the full season did they just get lucky last year? To win the division, though, okay.
I like that. So let's start AFC East then. We'll start AFC and go NFC. So Dolphins, Patriots, Jets. And I say Jets out of just respect for them being a team, but I'm sure they're going to be at the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, well, obviously, I think the safe bet's the Bills. Honestly, at this point, I can't count the Patriots.
Yeah. So I mean, it's Bills got that 80%, and then the Patriots are the wild card.
Yeah.
To contend with them for the division.
Well, it's honestly, I think in a couple of years that the Patriots are going to be back to, the AFC East goes through Foxborough, just because it's considering just look at what it took for them to do what they did, and he still won 6 games last year.
With a torn apart defense, nothing on offense. They didn't have an offense.
I think there's maybe a couple coaches in the league who could have done what he did with that roster, and that's saying something.
AFC West. Scoot.
That one, so I could see the Chiefs winning the division and then make an early exit. However, Denver's looking good so far.
And even the Raiders, man.
Honestly, even the Chargers, that I think could end up being a really competitive division.
It'll be a fun division because the Chargers, if they can stop beating themselves, they're automatically dangerous and going to contend for it.
Yep.
I mean, you can't count the Chiefs. Broncos look weirdly good. And the Raiders, same thing. Bizarro world, they look weirdly good. But I do think the Raiders might sputter out partway through the season.
Yeah. It's hard to have confidence that Gruden's going to keep it up. But, I mean, I think the Broncos, they've been slowly getting better in the right areas, and it's one of those, I'm not just saying this because Bridgewater was drafted to the Vikings. I do think that Bridgewater could be a good quarterback. It's just he's never had a good chance to prove it. So now's his chance.
He stays healthy, he keeps the job, but
yeah. Honestly, I think the Broncos are that wild card. If I had to put money right now, I would actually lean Broncos, just because I think the Chiefs are going to get tripped up by the Super Bowl curse, the loser hangover.
Well, I'm going with winning the division, and I think the Chiefs might still win the division, but I do think that the Broncos are the wild card that might take it from them.
Yeah,
I would have said Chargers over Broncos, but the Chargers are the Chargers, and they always beat themselves, and they're still showing that they're the Chargers. So.
They really are. I saw some interesting stats about Herbert's red zone accuracy, which wasn't great. Although, and I guess let's move to the AFC South just because I saw an interesting stat about friggin' Travis Wilson has the worst pass catchability rating by far. Meaning, it was something crazy. Let's see. Let me find the stat. Travis Wilson.
Who's Travis Wilson on?
No. Why am I saying Travis Wilson? Sorry, that's a different quarterback. What's the name? Sunshine. Jaguars.
Sunshine. Oh, Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence.
I just know him as Sunshine too. Yeah, he's having a rough go his rookie year right now. And
yeah,
I think that was a bad match for him to go to Jacksonville.
I don't know if I can find it. But yeah, but it was something like he's has twice the number of balls that are uncatchable as the next closest person. Yeah, it was like 10% of his passes or something are uncatchable. It was gnarly.
That is gnarly. I mean, maybe another first overall pick for them this year.
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah. I feel like that division though is probably going to end up going to the Titans.
I'd see Titans or Colts.
Yeah,
because
Colts.
Oh no, I mean, Wentz is Wentz. Wentz is Wentz. Yeah. I wasn't counting on him playing the season.
And after hearing like an evaluation of him, how he plays like a madman, just no regards for his body. It's like cool, leave it out in the field, but you sprained both your ankles.
Yep. But I will say, I've been surprised, but I was surprised by the Texans.
I am too.
So, I mean, Tyrod Taylor until he broke his rib or whatever happened.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was someone else.
No, I think it was him too. He got injured, or maybe I'm thinking of Tua too. But the X-rays came out negative. But he has like bruising.
They're starting a rookie, Mills. Tyrod Taylor's going to IR with a hamstring injury.
Appreciate it.
So, yeah, I mean, again, I would lean towards the Titans at this point just because Jacksonville and Texans seem like a hot mess, and the Colts they're a quarterback away still, it seems.
I think they need a couple more key pieces still. So they need the quarterback, but I think they also need like another receiver to step up because Hilton is for some reason he stopped showing up.
Well, I mean, Pittman's actually been doing pretty good. Well, Hilton stopped showing up because he's on IR, apparently. But, Pittman and Pascal's been horrible. I don't know about Campbell. And it's also, I guess, also a question of if I feel like Hilton, how long is he out? So he was placed on IR on 19 days ago. Yeah, I could see them making waves if they can figure out the quarterback. It depends on if the guy they have is what looks like it's Jacob Eason. Is their QB now?
Anywho, Titans there.
Yeah.
AFC North, which is another kind of crapshoot. They're all 1-1, but I don't see the Bengals doing it.
Yeah. I know everyone's high on Joe Burrow and everything and how they're off to like a decent start, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little too rough. I think if it's hard to say, but if the Ravens button down, they can take it. If not, like the Steelers are very much wild card this season, and the Browns always are. Like they look great, like how they should be on paper, and then they look like they're the Browns. So
yeah, it's. I mean, it feels like a broken record for that division. Just always seems to get down to all right, Ravens or Steelers. Just pick one of those two, and they're going to be the division winner.
And it might come down to the last game.
I mean, yeah.
And then they'll play again in the playoffs.
That's what's actually funny. Is like normally it's just because they were all so good, but now this time it's like, okay, it's possible they're all so terrible that it could go either way. We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Ravens are dealing with the same issue the Niners are with the running back situation. And their defense is somehow like really porous. It might just be because of Rob Ryan's scheme, which is blitz, blitz, and blitz.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you on that one. Steelers or Ravens? Really hard to say who.
Yeah, it's a coin flip.
Yeah.
NFC East though is starting to look a lot more competitive than I think it initially did. Even more so. Like,
especially compared to last year.
Yeah. Yeah, like this time it looks competitive because they actually all could be fairly decent, except for even the Giants still. It's
They
what's
competed.
The name? Yeah, they've been competitive.
Daniel Jones might prove people wrong, thinking oh, he's bust, you need to find someone new, but he showed a fight. Besides the ball you could say he missed, which still was in the receiver's hands for a touchdown. It was on his fingertips, but with those gloves, he should have caught that.
Yeah. I mean, but we talked about Philly and Washington, though. Even Washington, honestly, Heineke has done good enough.
Yeah.
That I still wouldn't say write him off yet. I mean, again, they almost beat the Bucks last year. I think it was.
I wouldn't either, because even last year playing against the Bucks, he had very limited snaps, very limited experience just at pro ball. He could still be considered within his first 2 years, kind of thing. They could be dangerous, especially with that dual backfield they have with McKissick and Gibson.
Yeah. Well, then also what's his name? A receiver. He went off the other night. He went off. So
he scored me, I think, 27 points with a PPR in our league against Tyler.
Yeah, which man, that was a shellacking you gave him.
It was dirty. So dirty. Between Tom Brady, I could probably pull it up, but between Brady, that receiver, and then I picked up Washington's kicker, gave me 14. Terry McLaurin, scary Terry.
That's him. Yeah. He dude was balling out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of those. I mean, and also the Cowboys, they've competed, but I mean, are you still confident? They're going to come together and go on a run. They still shown that, if they don't get the run game going, they're in trouble.
Yeah, and I mean the run game right now is looking like Pollard. It's not even like Zeke. Which kind of sucks, but
I mean, honestly, it's. I think me and Kima both were talking about that. I think we're both okay with all right, put up your shit up at this point, Zeke.
Which he may not be there next season. Honestly,
I could live with that.
I think most people can.
Yeah. He's bugged me since OSU. All right, what division next?
Actually, we never picked out a standout. We just talked about him.
I mean, if I had to pick one right now, honestly, I would go Washington.
See, I'd go the Eagles.
They would be my second choice, but you could tell me any one of those 4 teams quit the division, and I'd be like, yeah, okay,
yeah,
yeah.
And I feel like the Cowboys they're in the mix. They could take it.
They could take it. They could finish last, and I wouldn't be surprised either way.
And to me, just to justify the choice of the Eagles over the Cowboys, is I think the Eagles' defense is more together.
Yeah. Yeah, I could agree with that. And also, it's I think what Hurts has going for him is that he has that. It's not that he's more dynamic; it's that he's less well known. He's not a known commodity. So there's that whole unknown potential that I think he could capitalize on. Whereas, Dak's good. We know what you're going to get from Dak. You know what he can do. You know how to scheme against. Whereas Hurts is still in that whole. Okay, we haven't really figured out exactly how to scheme on him because they've just been hurt. They've been over stuff. So that's why I could definitely see them going on a tear.
Well, the list I have here is NFC West next.
That one. I mean, if that's no one that's really competitive, and I could see any one of those teams. But I would leave Rams right now, actually. They've been shown they were mortal, but their defense is still, it's like the Bucks, right? The defense is still the defense. They still have some great playmakers. And I mean, Stafford's. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what you care what anyone thinks. Stafford is clearly an upgrade over Goff.
It's
and dude, Cubs have been having a monster year already, just in 2 games. And it really there, I think, big question is, can their backfield stay healthy?
Yeah,
because that's really what they've been like. They were already down, and then I think Henderson got hurt. I think
he get hurt again.
I think he did. I don't know if it's like actually like permanent, but his status is uncertain because he suffered a rib cartilage injury. Yeah,
a lot of rib injuries.
So, but they have Sony Michel, who is not necessarily a running back, but the dude is great in passing situations. And then apparently Jake Funk didn't do terrible. He filled in fairly well, so...
Yeah, you can't count them out with how many weapons they have.
Mm.
You can't count out any of the teams, honestly, in the division.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm curious to see is come when the Niners match up with the Rams, if schematically they can beat them like they have in the past. Because even last year with 4th plus stringers, they still beat the Rams twice.
Mm.
And you can say that came down to Goff's inefficiency, because those are probably his most inefficient games of the season, because they got to him. But is it a question of, maybe Saleh left some notes for Ryans and, like, this is what he loves to do, you're going to mess him up? Because Saleh and McVay were roommates at one point in time.
Yeah. So I mean, so I think an interesting thing to see is, we talk about like, oh, McVay is supposed to be like, defensive wizard, this guru. But here's the thing. It's like, okay, he had Goff. Goff was never really like, he was not going to be, I am not just, playing quarterback. I am running this offense. I am picking everything. Like, he didn't have that same level of football IQ where, I would put Stafford closer to like, Rodgers or Brady, where he can actually command he can make a lot of checkdowns and audibles at the line of scrimmage, and it's the right call. And not only that, but also it's Goff, you disrupt him. Whereas Stafford, he played for the freaking Lions. You cannot tell me that guy can't still ball out when he's getting disrupted, because he played for the freaking Lions.
He stands up in pressure. That's why he's been damaged so much.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it depends on if McVay's realized, like, yeah, okay, you know what? I'm going to let you do your thing. Do what you need to do. Make changes you need to. I'm going to like call plays, but treat him as more of like a leader, not a quarterback. Then I actually think though they can overcome that, because that's really the big thing. If you look at what's been missing him, is that.
Yeah, and I do think that's what makes him really dangerous this season. Probably seasons going forward. Is everyone keeps talking about they have a melding of the minds, and it's even McVay says it's been more collaboration as opposed to me coaching and like him having full control. They've collaborated. He's had X amount of years in the league. Like, we're pulling from that.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely makes him dangerous. But at the end of the day, it's McVay's scheme and his team. So I'm curious on if just Shanahan has that mental edge on him.
Yeah.
Being as he was his assistant and like tree.
Let's see. You guys don't play him until
not for that.
Yeah, November. I think it's a Monday night game though.
Of course it is.
And then you close out the season. So you're in LA November 15th, and then you guys are at home on January 9th to close out the season. So that's always going to be interesting to watch, is because, is the division going to be wrapped up enough for either team by then that they can rest starters for that game, or is it still going to come down to that?
Yeah. That's fair. I don't know. Personally, I feel like it's between the Niners and Rams, beyond just being a Niners fan, because the Seahawks have shown if they go on a losing streak, their locker room kind of falls apart.
I think also their defense. The defense is where they're really struggling. Yeah, we know they have an offense. We know they do.
Even last season, they had an offense, but they got an offensive coordinator. And I think Carroll's very touchy about the defense because it's his defense.
Mm-hmm.
And when your head coach gets, honestly, buttered like that, it brings down the whole team.
Yeah. Which sucks because, like, dude, when that offense, it's when they are not getting Wilson's way, they're fun to watch. Like, that dude balls out.
He does. And, like, I feel like the Cardinals, I feel like they didn't beat the Vikings last week. The Vikings beat the Vikings.
I mean, yeah.
And
I wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah, they stomped all over the Titans, but the Titans seemed like they just were not ready. Like,
yeah.
They were asleep. And I don't know, I think Kingsbury's a little too big for his shoes right now.
That's fair. I mean, especially with them starting 2-0, I imagine there's a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, that's why I think the week 4 and 5 is really going to be telling because, I mean, next week they play the Jags. That's not going to tell us anything. But then they go week 4, they're on the road at the Rams, and they're at home against the Niners. So those two games are really going to show us, I start to say, like, okay, can they compete in the division or not?
Yeah. But what's weird, too, is, like, the Cardinals were one of the worst teams in the league, but they still beat the Niners. Don't know what it is.
Yeah. But that's why if they, like, but playing both those, like, you know, the two contenders in a row like that, that's how they do. Like, if they, even a close loss still shows they are competitive with them, but if they just get, like, you know, blown out.
Or even if it's low scoring, but they're controlled the whole time. Like, they're being controlled by the other team. Definitely. Yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like just the amount of talent the Cardinals have had, not just this season, but previous seasons, since they got Hopkins, since they've spent all this money on veterans, like, they should have been doing better. And I think Kingsbury's not going to take them there.
That's definitely possible. Yeah. They have underperformed with what they've had. Kind of like the Vikings.
The only thing is, like, without Murray, that entire offense doesn't work.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. To me, Niners, Rams. Either one of those can definitely take it. Cardinals, a little bit of wild card. I don't really see the Seahawks taking it.
I mean, again, though, it's one of those divisions where, honestly, you could tell me any one of those teams won it and be like, yeah, okay. All right. There's a lot of parity in a lot of these divisions, which we haven't really had. Like, normally there's, like, you know, that's the one tough division, but there's 2 or 3 that I'd say, yeah, honestly, it could go any number of ways, and I wouldn't be too surprised.
Yeah, but let's get to your division, NFC North. I think that's actually kind of similar. It could be.
It is. Fun. It's similar, but for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, because the Packers are Jekyll and Hyde. Like, got blown out week 1, blew out the Lions basically week 2. But it's like, I already know what any team that has a pass rush and at least a corner that can stay with Adams, you're probably going to beat them. And if you especially stop the run.
Yeah, if you can make them one-dimensional and take away Adams, you pretty much shut them down. The granted, part of the problem is that's not always as easy as it seems, because doing both those two things can be difficult. But again, it's one of those, like, until you prove otherwise, that is one of the divisions that just goes through Lambeau. It's until the other teams consistently step up for beyond, like, 1 or 2 seasons here and there. Because, like, I mean, the Bears are still the Bears. They have a good defense, but is anyone confident that Fields is the answer for that offense? Or is anyone confident anyone's the answer for that offense?
No.
And then the Lions are the Lions. Like, I mean, as it was, the Lions were a joke, and now you're taking the Lions with a downgrade at quarterback? And then the Vikings, we spoke at length about them. Well, I'm not saying that I am 100% confident Green Bay will win the division. It's like, you know what, when the Patriots were still struggling. It's you just until you prove that they lose. I can't bet against them to that division. I can't.
I do think that the only team that could dethrone them would be the Vikings, and that's if they, get their shit together, put it in a bag, and come at them. Because the Bears have the defense, I think, to keep up with the Packers, but they don't have the offense, and I think that comes down to Matt Nagy, the head coach.
Yeah, but again, it's like, is Matt Nagy any worse of a head coach or offensive coordinator than Zimmer?
No, and I think it's for similar reasons. That I feel like Nagy's not going to play to the strengths of Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Get him out in space. You let him use his legs. And it's the same thing with Zimmer. Like, you're just not pandering to your offensive strengths.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think either one of those teams could do it. I'm not saying they would, but I could. The Bears and Vikings are just one of those, okay, which one of the teams is going to do just enough to take second place? That's what I think it's going to come down to. And that really is a coin flip to me, because they're both. The only thing I would say is the Bears' front seven has been more consistently solid when healthy. Whereas there's been far too many games where the Vikings front seven, even when healthy, still just got run roughshod. Because it's one of those, I mean, if you have both Mack and Hicks on the field for the Bears, that D-line is scary. But if Hicks is gone, their defense falls apart. It's similar to the Rams and take away Donald, where they just lose everything.
Game over.
Yeah. And so, but I do agree that I could see one of them upsetting them and taking it. Because that's, even when the Packers were better, that's happened. But yeah. And then there's the South, which I mean, it's an intriguing one.
Yeah, I feel like the Falcons aren't going to be in. They're not top two.
Yeah,
Falcons are just out of it. Like, they have good fight, but yeah, they're not in it. I feel like the Saints are just short.
The Saints are still a question mark to me, because it's we saw, good Winston and bad Winston, and the question is which one's going to show up more often. It's like Fitzpatrick right now. Which one are you going to get?
That's fair.
And then the Falcons, I think they're going to finish bottom, but they have shown enough in the first few games. I think they will spoil one of those teams' season. One of them will be on their path to winning, and they'll spoil it with the random upset.
I can see that.
Because, I mean, honestly, it's dude, up until those two interceptions, they were clawing their way back.
Yeah, they were fighting with the Bucs, and I feel like it's between the Bucs and Panthers. Of course, based on the first two games, but it also depends on what we get out of the Panthers in long term.
Yeah, that's it. And that division, okay, right now I'd go with Bucs, but that's just because there's still too much uncertainty with the Panthers and Saints. It's ask it in week 5, might have an instant answer. If the Panthers and Saints, if the last week was just fluke for the Saints and they both go on tears, then I'm not as certain it's the Bucs. But it's kind of like the Chiefs, where it's with that roster, especially since they basically brought back everyone, it's hard to bet against them.
It's true. Yeah, but I think as long as the Panthers have a healthy McCaffrey, their offense is shown to be completely able to run with Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at something that's pretty impressive, which is the point against, which is only 21, whereas the Bucs have 54 against.
Yeah.
So the defense is...
The problem is, though, it's the Panthers played the Jets and the Saints.
Yeah.
So it's... Yeah, if they can keep it up. And honestly, I think the Panthers have been trending up anyways. They just needed... they were either... They had the quarterback, but everyone else was getting hurt, or their quarterback just was struggling. And so I think it's if Darnold was actually just screwed by Gase and he's actually a decent quarterback and he can actually play well. He doesn't have to be like crazy good. He just has to be good. Okay. He has to make passes enough so they can't crowd the box. So that way McCaffrey can break plays. That's all they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's actually a division I'm actually excited to see how it pans out, just because it's where we are in the post Breeze era. So who knows how the Saints are going to go? The Panthers are trending in the right direction, and we got to see. Okay, like was last year just the Bucs peaked at the right time, or are they actually do they have something where they're going to be now the leaders for the next few years? Like I seem to remember seeing something last year about the division where it's as far as like people changing and like playing well in that division, it's been one of the most competitive ones since the last 2 decades. Like every single team in that division has had like a period where they like won back to back or something like that, or it's been some weird pattern where it's like either alternated every year or it's been every 2 years, something crazy like that. So I think parity's good for the NFL though. I hate it when it's when you have the NFC East like it was for the longest time where it's one team and 3 jokes.
Yeah. Now the division's a joke.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, let's with all that, we can probably do some quick pick'ems.
All right, well, Thursday.
Yeah, I feel like it's swing Panthers.
Yeah. It's granted there's still question mark, but yeah, I had to go Panthers there.
Yeah, I've already made some changes for fantasy. I'm like, yes, I'm playing DJ Moore. He's definitely playing.
Oh yeah, dude, Moore, he has been a solid receiver. I think other than I think it was 2 years ago he had a down year, but other than that, he's actually been a really, really good receiver.
That was really surprising because I helped my dad with this draft, and I think we were on like 5th round. Like we were down there, and he was on the first page of wide receivers still available. And I'm like, how good is this guy? Like everyone passed on him, even I passed on him. Checked his stats, and it's like he said multiple 1,000-yard seasons with not great quarterback play.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'd be crazy not to take him right now.
Well, and that was even before they brought in Anderson, where it's like, so really, his worst years was the year before they got Anderson, because then everyone just double teamed him because they realized, oh, he's good, so we just shut him down. And then the first year with Anderson, he had not a great year because they were still like, okay, well, let's double team more. And then they just threw to Anderson. Yeah. But once they realized, oh, Anderson's also a good receiver, they weren't able to focus on him as much, and he got back to making plays. I think I had my first 2 seasons, and he was one of those guys who really he got me a lot of points. He was easily my best receiver for quite a while. Yeah.
Sneaky
honestly good. I was bad when you took him because he was what guy I was going to take. Which that was a theme in the draft this year since you were picked right before me. So there's multiple times where I'm going to get that guy. Nope. Never mind.
I think you snaked a couple from me because of the snake.
Yep. So I guess it's fair.
Yeah.
Turnabout's fair play, I guess.
Chargers, Chiefs.
I mean, I got to go with Chiefs just because Chargers are Chargers. But...
the Chargers could definitely have a game, pull it off, but the Chargers are cleaning up so much. I feel, and it's like not even execution; it's penalties, and that doesn't happen overnight. So,
yeah,
that's the Chiefs.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, that's a game just because I could see that becoming just a big shootout. They both have offensive weapons out the wazoo, and the Chiefs. I still don't think they fixed their defense from last year.
I don't think they fixed the offensive line since last year.
Yeah, so it's that could be one of those games that just ends up being some 80 combined points or something crazy. But yeah, I think Chiefs.
Yeah.
I'm 65%, 35%. That would be my
I feel that. I feel it. Next one I got Cardinals Jaguars, which I'm just gonna say Cardinals, and we don't have to explain that one.
Yeah.
The Jags have a rough.
It's if they can clean some things up, if Lawrence can get his accuracy together. So do you know what it is? It's Utah had a quarterback like him, only he was nowhere near as good. But he was like really tall, had long hair, was like the tall, lanky dude. And I think that's why I've been calling him Travis Wilson. Honestly, though, I think part of what's really hurt them is Etienne getting hurt. That's I think been a lot harder on them than they probably realized.
But I mean, you still have a 1,000-yard running back, James Robinson, and maybe he doesn't fit is it Meyer?
Yeah, Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer. It may not be what he wants out of his running back, so maybe that's a problem. But the fact that I think he's unwilling to adjust to the players he has, the same issue with other teams we talked about earlier. Yeah, they're going to keep losing.
Yeah, although one thing I will say, and I will give him the benefit of the doubt here, is that could also just be on the college level, you don't really have to adjust necessarily.
Fair.
It's a lot easier to make the players you have work for your scheme than it is a change your scheme for the players, just because at the college you get so much turnover. You don't have 10-year veterans on your team. Yeah. So it could just be he just haven't really figured out how to do that. Because not only that, also it's so the schools that Urban Meyer was a coach at, he was at Utah for 1 year, great year. Then he went to Florida, won a couple championships. But he's as he was Florida in the SEC, one of the top recruiting places, so he basically get the pick of the litter of a lot of players. Yeah. And then he went to OSU, which was the same situation. So it's one of those. It's again he was always being. The players were trying to come to him. He didn't have to work as hard to get people, so he just hasn't really developed that skill. Okay, I got to change the guys I have. It's no, I got plenty of guys. Someone's hurt, not working. Okay, replace them. Whatever.
Yep. Not like that anymore. I'm also curious if there's a bet out there of when does he quit and go back to college ball if he doesn't have a winning season, kind of thing.
I think he'll give it a couple years. It depends on how bad he does in those first 2 years.
But also, wasn't he the one who dipped out in the Dolphins?
That was Saban. Saban was the coach of the Dolphins.
So I'm I know there's a college coach, big name.
Yeah, no. That was Saban who dipped the Dolphins, went to LSU.
But I also mixed them up. So
yeah. Actually, I don't think Meyer's ever really coached in the NFL, has he? Let's see. Early coaching career. Yeah, he's been a college coach his whole time, as far as I know.
It's awesome picks because they're already doing a football life on him. And it looks like he was an assistant at least in the NFL.
I'm actually looking that up. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing Ohio State, Cincy, Colorado State, Notre Dame. 13 years as an assistant on the collegiate level. Yeah. Toledo head coach Nick Saban's home. Yeah, no, he's always been a college coach because he went from. Looked like he was assistant, then he became the head coach of Bowling Green, then he went to Utah, then Florida, and then OSU. He did do an ESPN career. That's what he did after he left Florida. He was on ESPN for a bit. Yeah, I think you just confused him with Saban.
Yeah, probably am. I do that pretty often. Anyway, Bears Browns.
That one I would lean Browns, but I don't know.
I would lean Browns. Basically the 60-40 split. Because if Dalton's still down with the knee injury, you got Fields, and then I assume Nagy's not going to make an adjustment to make it easy on Fields.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. As long as the Browns show up with what's on paper and play well, yeah, they should win.
If you get the week 1 Browns, they win. But if it's the other Browns that tend to show up, I have no idea.
And their offense does struggle when it's basically one-dimensional. All you have is Chubb. Without Landry, Baker struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And last I got notified, Landry, I think, went on IR. At least that's what Yahoo told me.
Let me see. Let me see if they have an injury report.
Yeah, put on IR with knee injury.
Out at least 3 games with an MCL sprain. Yeah. And it's like, so unless, OBJ finally steps up.
Which he's been out with injury too, so.
You're right. Yeah, he's questionable. That leaves Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins. And then Austin Hooper at tight end.
They honestly have one of the best 2 tight ends in Lincoln, Njoku and Higgins.
Oh, you mean Hooper? Higgins is a receiver.
Oh,
yeah,
my bad. I meant Hooper.
But no, that is a pretty solid one too. But also apparently Baker's questionables, and their next man up is Keenum.
Oh,
yeah. So
the odds might have just gone up for the Bears.
So okay, let's do this. All right, Justin Fields Bears or Case Keenum Browns? Who do you got? I'd still go Browns in that case, just because I think the overall team of the Browns is better.
I do too. I think the defense of the Browns could hold Fields, and then you still have Chubb to worry about.
Yeah,
and Hunt. So,
but still, that's that could be a very ugly game. But those are the 2 guys playing for him.
Could be fun for us watching, though.
All right, which one's next?
Washington and the Bills.
Ooh,
I like that. It's gonna be very it's gonna tell us a lot about Washington, I think.
Yeah, honestly, I think that is gonna be a pretty, statement game for either one, for whichever team wins, especially on how they win. Because as long as they both play well, even if it's close, that still shows okay, they're both still solid teams, I think. But if they play terribly or just one of them gets blown out, that's good. Oh, okay, all right, never mind.
Now, let's say that happens. Would it reflect more on one team being good or one team just not being as good as we thought?
So you mean if it's just an ugly win, or one of them gets blown out?
A blown out.
I think it's a little both. It'd be a little both in that instance because, the Bills still have a good offense, but it's still kind of Josh Allen.
Indeed.
Is still, he's still kind of Brett Favre mentality. But their defense, they had a hard time getting pressure, but other than that, their defense was good. It's just a matter of can their defense get consistent pressure. And then the same thing with Washington. It's Heineke's done well, but can he actually be the difference maker? Can he, games on the line, can he take over, win it? And because they have offensive weapons, it's just a question of can Heineke capitalize on that? And then the same thing with their defense. Their defense, except for they have almost the opposite problem. They have really good pressure. They have a great front four, but it's the rest of the defense is kind of questionable. So, again, I think it's both. It's both a statement of that team, okay, they are good, and the other one's not quite there yet. But again, even if they get blown, I don't think it's oh, they're terrible. It's just okay, they're not quite there. They haven't really turned the corner they look like they might have.
I'm scanning the rest of the games real quick with my eyes. I could see this one being a technical upset and Washington taking it. Just based on the fact that yes, the Bills are probably going to focus on taking away Terry McLaurin. They've proven McKissick catching out of the backfield is really effective, and they still have Logan Thomas. They left the ball to still. So, like you said, they have plenty of weapons, and Washington can take it.
Really, I don't think if either team wins, I don't think it's an upset or Yeah, it's
personally that's some like in quotes upset because to a lot of analysts like out there, you see the Bills and you're like, yeah, the Bills are the team in the AFC. They're
But again, like, are they though? That's
yeah.
We've had last year they had a really good season. The year before though, they were good, but they were still kind of shaky. And it's, I mean, really 2 years isn't enough to go, okay, yeah, they are the top team in that division. It's still up in the air, I think, for them. It's hard to overcome their history as a franchise.
That's fair. But I mean, all right, going from them into like who's supposed to be another top AFC team in the Titans playing the Colts.
Yeah, that one I think I would definitely have to go with the Titans winning that one.
Same.
And I think a lot of it just because I still am not confident in the Colts.
The Colts are that wild card right now.
Yeah.
Even with Wentz, they're a bit a wild card. The defense is good. Yeah, they have that good pass rush. But that's
I think part of it is the Colts don't seem to have, outside of a couple positions, they need better depth. Like, and that's like, I mean, all teams always have like, you know, a few key injuries and they get crippled. Like, really, outside of maybe their backfield and maybe their receiver core, they don't have as much depth as they need. And part of the problem is they've already gone through a lot of that depth. Yeah, like, what is it? Like, I'm looking at their depth chart. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys from offense on IR and 3 guys from defense on IR. Granted, not all those guys were starters necessarily, but still
that removes.
Yeah, like especially when you figure 4 of those guys on offense on IR are receivers. So you're talking about half the receivers are on IR. That's right. Sam was playing for. That's cool. But yeah, so I would definitely go with Titans in that one.
Yeah, I'm with you. This one might be a little wild. Saints Patriots.
Yeah, that one. It's in Foxborough. I would lean Patriots, but I still think it's too much of a question mark for either team to really be confident. And it looks like Vegas agrees because they're like, you know, they're saying New England by 3.
Damn.
Yeah.
Might have to bet on the Saints then. Initial gut vibe, just looking at him, like, okay, I'm thinking Saints, but you're right. Like, Patriots at home is going to be tough. Mac Jones is looking very good as far as like executing the offense. They're not asking a whole lot of him, and it depends if they can stop Kamara, make Bridgewater try and win Winston try to win the game. I haven't got there yet, but you make
Winston shows up.
Yeah, you flip that coin.
Yeah. Honestly, that's I think one of the hardest ones to pick, just because again, it's have the Patriots reloaded? Have they, recovered enough from last year? Or does he still need another year? And has Winston figured it out? And I don't think we have either of those questions answered.
No, we don't. After that first game out, Winston was going to be like, all right, he's an elite QB. He can see his eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of those like 51%, 49% in my pick. Where,
yeah, I feel that. It's funny as I could see 51% go either side too, though. So
yep,
it means a real 50. Based on the odds, I'd go Saints just to hopefully they cover that spread of 3 points,
which they might.
Hey,
I don't know.
This next game though too, like I kind of want to watch it. Is Falcons Giants?
Yeah, especially after how the Falcons started out last week? Yes, or whatever day that was.
Because either A, they're going to compete, in which case, like, okay, the Giants are playing, they're contending, they're competing, as are the Falcons. Or I could see the Falcons just keep control of the game and move off the momentum they had in the last game, being competitive with the Bucs. Which would tell me that, yeah, the Giants aren't.
Where is it? I just saw. So here's an interesting stat. Through the first 2 games, Daniel Jones is by far the leading rusher.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even close.
I don't even have to look it up.
Barkley has 23 carries for 83 yards and 0 TDs.
Yep.
He has an average of 3.6. Jones has 15 carries for 122 with 2 TDs. And then after that, you have Booker, who's like 6 carries, 16 yards. So you're talking like he has outrun all other running backs combined.
And a big thing of that is, like, I've watched a little bit on Barkley because he's that guy that, I picked him for my dad, I think, in the 2nd round. And everything I've read up to that point was like, yeah, he's healthy. He's like in the best shape we've seen in a long time, which is funny because I also heard that about Zeke. But someone pointed out, next player, like he's mentally not there yet.
Yeah.
So I'm watching to see if his switch flips and he just accepts his body's okay and can handle this.
Well, I think what's interesting is because like he had the same injury as AP, right? It was his both MCL and ACL, I think it was.
I can't. I want to say it was just ACL.
Was it just ACL? Let me see. 2020 season.
Oh, what's funny is he's questionable.
ACL. Okay, yeah. So it's just the ACL. But yeah, it's like, I mean, honestly, not everyone can be AP. Like that, the fact that guy came back from what was usually a career-ending injury in a short span and had a crazy season. And so, the dude has skill. He has talent. I think he will come back. But I wasn't sold that it was going to, like, especially the first half season, especially. I think at minimum it's going to take him a bit before he gets back into that groove. And by then it might be too late for him.
It's true. And honestly, people want to drop him. I might pick him up and just sit him on the bench, see what happens. But yeah, I don't know. The game itself, I'd probably take the Falcons, even though they don't have like a outstanding running game either. But I don't know. I feel like Falcons.
I mean, that one, I think I would go with Giants just because I think that the Falcons are going to be tired from their last game because they tried. They put a lot out there. So I bet you that was kind of to get that close and get within 3 and then just get blown out like that. I bet that was just, dagger.
Eat away at your soul.
Yeah. But then on top of that, this is the other thing. It's like, okay, if it comes down to it, let's say both defenses just get blowing up the lines of the other one. Who would you rather try and do a scramble?
Yeah, Jones.
Yeah, and especially, and knowing that, who do you want to scramble or try to find someone out in the field? Jones or Matt Ryan without Julio Jones?
Without Julio.
Yeah. So that's why I would lean Giants.
I completely see that.
Again, that one, honestly, I think that's rolling the dice.
It is. Ooh, and Bengals Steelers.
I mean, I gotta go Steelers there.
I'm gonna go Steelers too, just because the Bengals are piecing it together.
Yeah,
I feel like they're still fragmented.
I think they're 1 or 2 seasons away from really getting it together.
Same, and it kind of sucks. I feel like it's just getting everyone involved in the scheme but like it's obvious they have weapons on offense. They obviously need an O-line too, because if Burrow's running for his life and getting hit left and right, like, yeah.
I mean, but also it's one of those. The Bengals have been bad for so long. There were just too many pieces. You're not going to fix that in 1 or 2 drafts. It's going to take a bit. So,
that's true.
And again, it's the Steelers. One of those teams where it's like every time you're ready to write them off. So it's just I especially within the division, I learned to give them the benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Steelers. And go Ravens, Lions.
Ravens, Lions. Ooh. Ravens.
Taking Ravens, yeah.
Yeah. I just Lions to Lions.
Lions. Well, not only that, but the Lions can't stop the run game. And what do the Ravens do? They just run the ball.
Yeah. Yep. I know that also it's like if you just get any pressure on Goff, he usually wilt. So
yep. And then with Rob Ryan loving the blitz, they're gonna get pressure. So
yeah.
Ravens. Better.
Yeah, that one seems like an easy pick.
Yeah.
Though
might be another one though.
It depends on who shows up. Because again, we thought week 1 was going to be a fairly easy pick, really, if you really thought about it. But I mean, there's 2 games you're talking about.
I'm looking at Jets Broncos.
Yeah, that one seems like an easy one. I just don't think the Jets have it together.
I feel so bad.
I mean,
Saleh,
yeah, feel bad for him. Wilson, nah.
I know why you don't feel bad for Wilson, and like I feel a smidgen bad because it's like, oh, you're getting a wake-up call. You had more interception in the first 2 games than you did in your college career.
But that was actually one of the things I like. Because Tyler was all about Wilson. He was all hopped on the guy.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: it's like, okay, the BYU they did well last season. The problem is the teams they did well against. It's because and people can say like, oh, you can only play the people you play, but really, so like college is divided. You have like the Power 5 schools, the G5 schools. You have that kind of separation. And because BYU went independent, so they didn't have any conference affiliation, it's just basically like, okay, let's play who we want. They had a good schedule set up, but then because of COVID, it got blown up. So they played a bunch of G5 schools. Like, I think they only played one team that finished the season ranked, and BYU lost. Granted, it was like a close overtime loss on like a road where they literally didn't even know they were playing until 3 days before. But still,
yeah,
that's their only ranked team they played outside of, I think, the bowl. So it's one of those, like, people like, there's all things like, yeah, Zach Wilson looked great, but it's like, they were like saying, like, oh, you look great against, the Jets from the last 20 years. Really. So, yeah. That's why I wasn't sold on Zach Wilson.
That's fair. I mean, that's why the first 2 picks weren't sold on Zach Wilson. Or at least Niners and Jaguars.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on Broncos. Broncos are pulling it together fast.
And I'm here for it. I'm here for seeing Bridgewater go on a run.
Don't kiss.
I'm here for that. Even if it means Matt gets even more in softball than he is.
Isn't that possible?
That's fair. Ooh. Speaking of, here's another one where it's like, okay. I mean, the Dolphins, man. Every time you're like, okay, maybe they're finally going to turn it around. They don't.
I think it depends if they have Tua.
Even with Tua, I don't know. It's just they've really felt like a team that's been like this close the past 5 years. We're like, okay, they're going to turn it around next year. Then they don't.
I feel like a lot of that dealt with the coaching staff, but yeah. I think it would be more of a question mark. The Raiders winning if the Dolphins had Tua.
That's fair.
They don't have Tua. Raiders got that check mark. They're going to win.
Yeah. I mean, except for Jacoby Brissett, man.
He's not bad,
he's obviously not going to carry you to the playoffs, but he is serviceable enough that I don't know. Yeah. And then they have Parker. Oh, Fuller's out, it looks like. So that makes it harder.
And not really. They have Waddle.
Waddle, Parker, and Gaskin still. And they have Gesicki.
So they have weapons still in offense. Like, you can't say they have a lack. But I don't know. I can see the Raiders edge them out just the way they're starting the season.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree with you on that one.
This is a good game. Buccaneers, Rams.
That one, yeah. That one I think is really hard to pick. Because
a lot.
Yeah. It is a measuring stick game. But it's like, especially because it's a road game for the Bucs. And they won handily, but it got pretty close for them against the Falcons. So we see that they're mortal. So it'll be interesting to see if that was just the Bucs, relaxing too much, or if it is one of those like they're going to actually, get surprised by a better team.
Yeah,
but then again, same thing with what happens if that front seven of the Bucs gets in, shuts down Henderson if he's healthy, and then gets in Stafford's face? Can he make plays?
Yeah. That is the big question to me, and I look forward to seeing it because Bucs have a good front seven, they have a good pass rush, and I want to see that against the Rams because that's the strength of the Niners defense. And also, I don't know, that one's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be more of a shootout rather than a defensive battle. Just in my head,
it depends. I think honestly the deciding factor of that one, because it's I think the biggest place where there's a potential imbalance is the Rams D-line against the Bucs O-line.
Yes.
Because the Bucs have a great D-line, and the Rams, their O-line's not terrible, but it's not amazing. Whereas the Rams have a great D-line, but the Bucs have a great O-line.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Bucs are probably going to get some pressure. It's a question of, can the Rams get some pressure?
Yeah. If they can get to Brady, then I think that starts to swing to the Rams. But as it stands, I think the Bucs probably edge out the Rams.
Yeah, that's the direction I would lean. And part of it's also just because the Rams have a harder time getting the run game going, especially with their injuries. Because not only is okay, you're down to your third, fourth string running back, but you're also now playing the top rushing defense.
Yep.
So that means you're going to have to win through the air early and often to open up running lanes. It's going to have to be use a pass to set the run, and if you can't do that, they're going to fall apart.
Yep. And then you got to deal with that pass rush at the same time.
Yep. So that's if they do a lot of screens, bootlegs, stuff like that to try to really take advantage of those guys being aggressive. It is one of those I could see it becoming a shootout or the Rams just going off. It just depends on if they do that.
They will, and I say that because McVay is one of the most bootleg heavy offenses or offensive minded people that we've had in years. Literally, the first play of the season was a bootleg, a boot.
Mm.
So he's going to use the bootleg probably a lot. So it's going to depend on if they can adjust for that.
Yeah. Though I will say the one thing that I think is, unlike Goff, Stafford isn't one of those guys who gets scared of getting hit. So that's, I think, going to be really interesting is it's going to be a lot harder to rattle him with good, knock him down every play. So we've seen the guy is okay, all right. You fractured my spine, whatever. I'm going to keep going.
Broke my neck.
Yep.
And my ribs. And my left
He's got to be 40% metal at this point.
No, slimmest margin, probably Buccaneers.
Yeah. This one's easy to me because
Seahawks, Vikings.
In the Russell Wilson era, he is undefeated against the Vikings.
Oh.
Yeah. The Vikings have yet to beat Russell Wilson. Doesn't matter home, doesn't matter away. Like the only thing that makes it possible they pull it off is that it's not a primetime game. Because that's also been the other thing is like, so not only have they lost all their games to Seahawks, but then on top of that, their last couple games against them have been primetime games. And not only have the Vikings been bad in those, like Kirk Cousins has won one of those. I think it is like, yeah, he's won in like 12 or something in primetime games.
Yeah.
So you take a team they never beat in a primetime game where you're current number one, recipe for disaster.
Yeah. I of course want the Vikings to win, but I would take the Seahawks only because the Vikings haven't shown up yet. I feel like they're making the small mistakes, like beating themselves.
I mean, even if they weren't doing that, I don't think they have the secondary to compete against the Seahawks. Like, you know, I don't think they have the backs to shut down Lockett and Metcalf. And then Carson is a bruiser of a running back, and then you also have Wilson, so they're going to be keeping that pass rush honest. And also, like, Vikings tend to struggle with mobile quarterbacks. And Wilson is a mobile quarterback. He's like Murray,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, they got 2 interceptions on Murray, but how many times did he break out of the pocket and make a play?
Yeah.
So, if they win, I think they win in a shootout.
That's how I would see it go down as well. It's a shootout, but chances are the Seahawks pull it off.
Yeah, because at this point it's not hard to disrupt the Vikings.
And then Sunday night prime time, Packers Niners.
All right, I want to see who you have first.
So it's tentative, but of course I'm going to take the Niners. And there's a few things that go into that as well, like in our favor. Rodgers apparently has a terrible win record in California in general.
That's interesting.
It is. He does. Even when they were like competing for the Super Bowl, they played the Rams in LA and they got beat when the Rams sucked. It was that off year. If the Niners pass rush, which is currently fairly healthy, they keep that pressure on Rodgers to stop the run, which they've shown they could do in the past in previous meetings. And surprisingly, the corners are keeping up. At least they did against the Eagles. So I think that's going to be the true test for them. It's the secondary.
Yeah. Well, it's a matter of can you shut down the run and contain Rodgers long enough to keep those guys from getting open? Because that's the thing. It's like if Rodgers gets out, if he can buy time, eventually one of those guys is probably going to get open. So then it's a matter of can you get to Rodgers before one of them gets open? That's, I think, really will be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting fight to watch as far as Niners defensive line, Green Bay's O-line. Another thing, like, it's weird. Since Shanahan has been the coach, like in prime time, he has competed and like the team has like just shown up. Even in the early years when we won like 2-3 games.
Yeah.
They won those in prime time. I don't know what it is.
Just he likes the spotlight, apparently.
Apparently, like I remember 2019 when they played the Browns. I was worried playing the Browns because I'm like, okay, the Browns on paper, they're this great team, and then they just decimated them.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh,
you're like, okay.
I got something to look forward to. All right. And I don't know. I feel like there's more question marks for the Packers than there are for the Niners for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I mean, even without that stat of Rodgers in California, I would still lean the Niners just because you're right. Like, it's like here's what's funny. I think you guys really all you need if you could swap Garoppolo for Rodgers, you guys would be just yeah, you guys would be terrified.
People. Yeah.
But even with the weaknesses of Jimmy G at quarterback, you guys win in most of the matchups, like position group versus position group, just because the Packers I don't think they did enough.
No.
And that's I think one of the reasons why I think Rodgers is gone after the season. I don't know where he's going, but I think this is the last time we see him in Green Bay is this year.
And I mean, so they won last season. The Packers, but you look at it, we had Mullins, who had an interception and a touchdown. Our lead back was McKinnon with 52 yards. And the receiver, our number one receiver at the time was Richie James. That is fourth string. And it was our number one.
Did you guys not have Kittle then either?
No, Kittle was down.
You still down? Okay. I mean, you guys are at about the same level with running back injuries right now. But yeah, you're passing. Yeah,
I mean, the O-line right now is so good. I feel like our O-line is actually one of the top 5 in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the addition of center. That he even said, like Mac even said, like any running back can come here and they're gonna go off.
Yeah. Yeah, really, I think this game comes down to the home field advantage. Really, is what it comes down to. Like if this were in Lambeau, I would actually lean Green Bay just because Rodgers in prime time in Lambeau, man. I don't. Yeah, he's like Big Ben. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it, but he does.
Let's see. So, Mullins also had a fumble.
Oh.
Second receiver was Dwelly, who is.
Who?
Dwelly. He's our second string tight end right now.
Who?
Ross Dwelly. Yeah. Now, when they played, the team was in shambles. Basically, like the only starters we had were a few on defense with Ward, Mosley, Verrett. Like, yeah, just the defense was actually fairly there, and we had Juszczyk healthy on offense. That's it.
Yeah. Like I mean, honestly, I think you guys are definitely the ones that people would pick. But like the fact that even Vegas still has that, you guys are only like 3.5 favorites.
Yeah.
So it's still one of those that where it's not a confident. Yeah, you guys got this in the bag just because it's Rodgers, man.
It's a healthy Rodgers, healthy Adams, and a healthy Jones.
Yeah.
On offense, it's scary. The only thing is if our offense can step up to them having that hole of Smith being out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that at the very least it's a shootout because I need the points from Jones. Because he apparently he is my big playmaker. But yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Monday, on the other hand, I don't know.
That's some fun.
Yeah.
Cowboys. I would take the Eagles right now. Because the Cowboys got handed the win against San Diego.
Yeah.
And it came down to, the field goal? Yeah, it came down to a big field goal from Zerline.
Yeah. But again, like how good are the Eagles?
Yeah.
It's that one, honestly, I think the only reason why I would lead Cowboys is because it's a home game. That's the only reason why. Like, and that's fair. In their case, that's not a strong reason because as we just saw, they have been playing well. Even at home, it's still just this one is just so 50-50 to me that I'm just going to go with Cowboys just because it's at home. Otherwise, I have no idea. I really don't.
One thing that, I'd say probably there's 3 things to make it less of a 50-50 and more Eagles to me is the running game for the Cowboys is struggling. Cooper is apparently dealing with an injury. He dealt with an injury last week. And guarantee it's going to go into Monday. If he's lucky, he might feel better. So then you're completely relying on Lamb to be the pass catcher because Gallup has been out.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I feel like the Eagles just have a little bit more of an edge as far as like defensive goes.
So here's something that's interesting. I was curious about this because I saw a stat and I was like, that's weird. It's not as bad as the Giants, but Hurts is Eagles' leading rusher.
Yeah.
Followed by Sanders. Whereas, while Pollard is the leading rusher for the Cowboys, Zeke isn't that far behind. As far as like total yards, he's got a worse average. Like he's 27 carries for 104 versus 16 for 123. But still, like they do have two solid running backs. So, honestly, I think it comes down to how healthy is the Cowboys receiving core.
Yes.
Because, and then on top of that, it's also like if you're looking at, the Eagles receiving core, they have Smith, but he hasn't really gone off yet. They have Goddard and Ertz, who have been like, they're tight ends. They've been great, but not blown up. Like, really, it's been Watkins. He's caught 5 for 140. But, you figure, so he's caught 140 yards. One of those came on a 91 bomb. So how good actually is he? So that's why I think it's really hard to guess. Yeah, that one I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean I'm flipped through headlines real quick, and it's like Cooper may not play Monday night.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I can go either way. I give a slight edge to the Eagles.
Yeah. Well, again, I would take confidence in my pick on that one. That one's totally up in the air for me. But yeah, I know it's going to be interesting. I still think it's really week 5 is when we'll really start to see some separation in. At the very least, have a rough idea of like, okay, these teams are actually trending upwards, which is trending downwards. It's still just way too much in the air. All I know is I just got to keep my fantasy roll going.
That one's a hard one.
Yeah. Who do I play? Who do I play this week? I play. Come on. Who do I got? I got Matt. Man, now I wish he was here so we could talk the fantasy trash.
I know, right? I have my wife, so that's interesting.
Have fun with that. At least you're not going on a trip while you're playing each other like Jonathan Jalmer. Especially because you guys go, lumber competitive about those things than those two do.
Yeah, I mean, so the painful thing is like, I think I helped her draft at least once before this. I think I helped her draft with this league because she forgets the players, where they are. Like, I try to keep up, be like, okay, they're not, Watson's not with the Chiefs anymore, like stuff like that. So I give her names, and the next thing I know, like when we're drafting, she'll take that player, and I'll be like, just shaking my head, like, really? She took Lamb. That was like a push that I had for her. Julio, because he's a nice late pick.
Yeah.
Zerline. I'm just like, these are my depth picks. Those are the winners.
Also, it helped that she picked right before you too, because
that
the order was her, you, me in that order. Yeah, I don't know. That was KDM was like, she was asking for a new quarterback for one of her leagues. And at first, she was going to drop Winston for someone. And I was like, okay, well, who's the other quarterback? Matt Ryan. I'm like, why are you dropping Winston instead of Ryan, man?
Yeah. My lineup may come down to if Mitchell plays Sunday night.
Yeah, after this, I actually have to look at some trades. Since you got the Niners running back last week, I got to see if I think I'm a higher priority than you now.
I mean, I got him. I also picked up Tyson Williams, Baltimore. I mean, he's apparently at least looks like on average he's got about 14 points. He's set to get about 11.
There's a few people that I think are gonna get snatched up. Like what's the name from the Cardinals?
Edmonds. Or Connor.
For the Cardinal, what's the name? Whoever just went off last week. Let's see.
Oh, the receiver.
Yeah, the receiver for the Cardinals. Moore.
Yeah, I don't know how you could. I understand why you take him, but I feel like that's a hard pickup when you got Hopkins and Green battling right there.
Yeah, well, not that, but also it's like, again, I think he had like 7, 4, and 14, but if I remember, one of them was like a 77-yard bump.
Mm-hmm.
So most that's what's hard is like, yeah, the stat line looks great, but when most of those yards came on one catch, how accurate is that stat line?
I mean, he's fourth man on the list, I feel. By Christian Kirk, AJ Green, and Hopkins. So
yeah, I think a lot of people are going to pick him up and then get disappointed.
That's fine. That means they have to drop somebody.
That's fair.
Well, this is fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Matt will make it on the next one. Especially if the Broncos lose to the Jets.
Oh, he will have some choice words if that happens.
Oh, man.
It'll be... Yeah, you might have to learn how to censor the video if you want to put it on YouTube. Because, whoo boy.
Good time. It's a good time.
Good game. GG's, yo.
Good game.